Paul, Catalina, and guess who it is? Look who's back. Back again. Pierre's back. Tell a friend. Yeah, I just shadied that up right there for you. Yeah, we've missed you. We've got to see like little clips up of you like doing, like freezing up. But now you have commandeered your girlfriend's laptop while she is off flying the friendly skies. And, listen, I think as far as I'm concerned, this is your laptop now.
Oh, well, yeah. Yeah. And apologies for everybody watching at home if I sound a little bit hollow. I'm not even prepared for the show because I've been spending the last half hour trying to figure out how IT people do this on a daily basis. And I've somehow, as you said, commandeered her MacBook, which I'm not an Apple person at all. In terms of computers. And so I don't know how to work them. They annoy me for some reason. I'm very old manish on many subjects, including Apple computers. And I didn't even prepare. I'm wearing a very basic Cove Point t-shirt for the show.
No, hey.
All this time getting ready. So.
No, hey, look, I'm happy. Look, I missed you. Emery missed you. Garrett missed you.
I missed you guys.
So I'm sure he's not here yet, but Jack would miss you. He would miss you too. Everyone's, I'm sure that the chat who I'm not logged in to the chat yet, but this is exciting in a banner day. Anytime we get real realignment news, this does well for views. I'm not going to lie about it. We're going to lean in. Our thing has always been about realignment. It has to be real or we don't touch it. Or if it's not real, we only touch it to. Is that me?
No, that's me. Again, I'm not an Apple person. Trying to put that on Do Not Disturb. But please, I'm going to text her right now. Say, stop texting me. I'm busy right now.
You know what? This is a line to quote one of our favorite movies.
Yeah,
I'm busy.
Yes, correct. Very correct.
Yeah. So
actually, you know what's funny? I just realized that the dings are from me because I'm texting her, which is going to her computer. So that's me interrupting the show. I just realized that right now. Because I just texted her, stop texting me. Oh, wait, I'm the idiot. That's the problem.
Yeah, you can. I mean, I don't want to walk you through it, but you can just close the messages app on the bottom too. But I don't know if you know how to do that.
I'm looking for that. I'll do that. I'll do that when Garrett eventually takes over for me here in a second. So,
but look, we have real realignment news today. The Pac-12 is 4 stronger, and that they've added Boise State, Colorado State, San Diego State, and who am I leaving out?
You said Colorado State, right?
Fresno State. Lots of states. Your alma mater, San Jose State, I think is in the. I think they're in the possibilities here. Now, not to get anybody too excited. I'm glad for them, but it's not. I don't know if it's going to work out how they think it is. I think that they think when they get back to 8 teams, they'll get their playoff spot back. And I don't know that that's going to happen.
Yeah, I don't know if that's going to happen either. And I cannot take credit for this. If this does, it sounds like it is happening, at least with these 4 teams. Now,
it's a done deal. Yeah, those 4 are done.
The rest of the Mountain West crumbles. And then eventually, because we saw this happen not that long ago. I want to say about a decade ago when it used to be the WAC. And the WAC kind of morphed itself. The Mountain West was already in existence, but the WAC, the Mountain West kind of absorbed the WAC, so to speak. And now, if it kind of goes back the other way, the name of the conference has to be WAC Pac, does it not?
Yeah.
It has to.
I think so. I think the WAC Pac would be good. The Pac to be determined now because they're going to be the Pac-6 until everything happens. Now, look, good for Oregon State and Washington State for making this happen. And we had heard, and I did have this like little thought in the back of my head about last week. There was some news that their scheduling alliance had kind of fallen apart. And when that happened, I thought, I wonder like what would do that. Now, the absolute realignment pornographers and liars that are in this space came up like, oh, it's because they're joining the ACC or the Big 12's finally come around. I'm like, it's been over a year, man. Like, look, if they haven't asked you to the prom yet, they're not asking you to the prom. And Oregon State and Wazoo knew this. They knew that. So there's no reason for them to, like, I'm sure they had their phone lines open if they got a call from the ACC or the Big 12, but that call was not coming. And, so to that point, I wondered, like, oh, maybe there's something else they've got cooking here. Well, the reason they didn't have a scheduling alliance worked out was they were about to mess up the Mountain West schedule anyway. So that's why they had clearly gotten down to a point where their money that they got from the other Pac-10 schools, the money that, some of the money that the Mountain West will now keep from those outgoing schools will pay for a large chunk of the exit fee, and then the schools kind of have to come up with their own part of it. But now it's palatable for them to move. They've told them that they're going to move starting in 2026. So last year, ostensibly, the Mountain West is in the same kind of crisis point. So the question remains, who is next and where these dominoes fall. Now, where it gets interesting is, okay, if the Pac, whatever it's going to be, can get a guaranteed playoff spot, do you start, if you're especially the ACC and the Pac to be determined, do you start maybe negotiating things out a little bit different, going, okay, you guys can have back Cal and Stanford, and then we'll go get a Memphis or a UCF or USF to fill these holes so that when Florida State and Clemson inevitably leave, this makes more sense, and we don't have to do these things now where the ACC is talking about playing baseball series and softball series and volleyball games in Dallas because it's centrally located and they can have a reasonable travel schedule. We'll see, but I think the question isn't interesting in who's going. It's who's next, how do they fill it out, and how do the powers that be respond to this, and how does this set off more dominoes? Because, and look, I am for them getting a playoff spot, if only to guarantee that the Big Ten and SEC don't just get one because they're there. So I'm all for that, except again, not on the committee. And very interestingly enough, we do have the CFP chair on the show today, Rich Clark, and I'm going to ask him this question about, like, okay, so now that the Pac's there trying to expand, does this change their automatic bid status for anyone, or is it just like, well, it's not the group of five anymore, it's the group of six?
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly going to be a very interesting I would love to hear that interview, by the way. I'll be tuning into that via live stream if my other computer works today. But my question now too is well, as this, it seems, like you said, it seems inevitable that Florida State and Clemson are going to be bolting the ACC. Does it seem inevitable at this point now that we are witnessing the collapse of the Mountain West Conference? I mean, is that just going to be the first domino of what will now be a defunct conference, not this year, but maybe in the beginning of 2026 and 2027? And then we're going through this whole process once more with another conference in terms of, okay, well, what happens to the leftovers? You mentioned my alma mater, San Jose State, is in there. Air Force, San Diego State, Nevada. There's some schools that have pretty good programs in there that are, while albeit not Pac-12 powers of past. I mean, but if this forms the new Pac-12, I don't know what the Pac-12 or the Pac whatever, I don't know if they're going to want those schools, how they're going to want to bring in those schools. I love your idea. I saw your tweet earlier today. I love the idea of giving Cal and Stanford back to the Pac-12. I would think that would be a home run move by all accounts. That would give the ACC a lot of brownie points for me for making a move like that, because they just belong on the West Coast. It's just the way it is. It doesn't make any sense for Cal and Stanford to be playing games on the East Coast.
No, it absolutely doesn't. And no one, I promise you, in the ACC, just like no one at Cal or Stanford is like, ooh, Duke. Like they're not happy about that.
Right. Well, random question. Would y'all, I mean, if you're Washington State and Oregon State, Cal and Stanford essentially told you to screw off like everybody else. So why would you willingly bring them in? Like, make them do that travel.
Yeah,
I would out of spite.
Maybe. And look, maybe that happens. Maybe Cal and Stanford are so invested in this that they don't, because again, Cal and Stanford are only going to go back if there's a playoff spot guaranteed. Their ACC thing comes with a playoff guarantee, and if they win that conference, they're getting in. There's no guarantee on this one yet. And again, that's going to be a huge thing to find out, is if the Pac gets back to the levels that they are allowed to have a playoff qualifier, are they still viewed as a power conference or not? Because I think it was pretty much told to them last year when they argued this, and they kind of held up the playoff agreement for a minute because they could, and wanted to see this. But it was more like, you guys can't just call yourself a power conference. Like, you were that because you had USC and Washington and Oregon and Stanford and Cal and everybody else. Those 10 schools all left you for different conferences. So you can't just say, well, we're a power conference still. You are not what you were. So if you add teams, you can't just say like, oh, Boise State's a power team now. Even though if there's anybody in America who's earned that, it's Boise freaking State. But the powers that be don't want to, like, they expanded the playoff not to get more other people in. They expanded the playoff to get more of their people in. So there's no altruism when it comes to this. There's nobody sitting, in Atlanta at the SEC offices, or in Charlotte at the ACC offices, or Chicago, the Big Ten, or in Dallas, the Big 12, going, you know what? Look at those damn little scrappers. Got to give them credit. You know what? Come on aboard, guys. Automatic bid. Congratulations. It's like they think they're playing Super Mario Brothers and they're going to defeat the dragon. And then once they do, like, that's it. But I do think that they might be sitting there going like, all right, we beat the dragon. They're like, well, good job. That's not the game anymore.
No, couldn't agree more. Could not agree more. I mean, could you imagine if, you had a team like Fresno State that suddenly gets an automatic bid, and everybody around the country is going, where the heck is Fresno, California? As being a native Californian, by the way, now I don't mind going on record saying we don't really brag about Fresno. It's not the greatest of all places in the world, but I couldn't agree with you more. To Garrett's question, here's my, if you put my commissioner's hat on, this is what I would do. Why don't we settle it on the field? How about we have a grudge match of one game, winner gets in the conference, the loser is left out in the cold. Now that would be
I'm down.
Solution, and that would draw you some ratings, pay-per-view style fight ratings, I would think. Let's do something like that.
Yeah, there we go. Let's play ourselves in. That's almost like the relegation model that we keep hearing about. That probably will never happen, right?
Not in college sports.
Not in college. The problem with the relegation model is they have to find a way to make it work so that everybody can be in the money thing that they have right now, make more money. There's not any teams really in the power conferences at danger of being relegated, but you'd have to get everybody else to agree to moving up and down just because they want to be a part of it, and that, to me, there's plenty of people who I think would agree to that. But I also think that there are there's plenty of schools that were like, well, no, we left the Big 12 because we don't want to play those teams anymore. This probably means that we have to go back and do that, because it makes sense, because they'd have to do things maybe more regionally. And that's just, it's a cool thing. And I would kind of be entertained to see it, because I have gotten a little bit hooked on, relegation in English soccer. Like, all that is pretty exciting and interesting. And, the fact that, they do it, like, it is the most thing, like, it is college sports-esque there, where, there's these little towns that have football clubs, and they play each other, and they can move up, and they can do these things. And maybe one day, Wrexham can go beat Man United, right? But that's and that's kind of like college. Well, like, maybe one day, Fresno State can go beat Alabama in a playoff game, and they can be there. But it's just not the way we work in American sports. Like, we like playoffs. Playoffs are bad things in soccer. I remember hearing, like, the first time I learned about it, like, I was in high school or whatever, and my uncle was living in England, And he was like, oh, yeah, this is the last game of the season. I was like, oh, of the regular season? Like, no, of the season. It was like, he was living in Reading, and he's like, oh, if Reading wins this, like, they get to move up the table. And I was like, what? I was like, well, what happens in the playoffs? And he's like, well, there's not playoffs. And I'm like, well, what do you mean?
Yeah. What are you playing for then?
What are you doing? It's like, no. Like, I said, so the best team could be playing the worst team in the last game of the season, and if they score 2 goals, it doesn't matter what everybody else does? Pretty much. I'm like,
And
I don't understand. It's like you and the Apple computer. I'm just like, wait a minute, hold on.
And you people used to run this country 250 years ago?
The world. They ran the whole world.
Yeah. Even better point.
They were everywhere. They were everywhere.
Yep. Just slinging tea left and right in the East Indies, and like they don't even have playoff format in soccer. What's going on here?
Come on. No, maybe that's because they were so imperialistic. They're like, look, if you're nice to the king, he'll move you up. He'll move up the thing. Like these will be his favorite colonies. Like he's big on India right now. Like, down a little bit on America. You want
to talk conference realignment. You just start with the imperialistic nature of the English Empire. I mean, just like, I think they occupied Egypt at one point too. And I was just like, well, how is that going to work? I mean, their teams aren't even in the same time zone. That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, no. England had a run where they're like, you know what? Africa, that's ours now.
Yeah.
And then the people in Africa were like, no. And they're like, nah.
Yeah.
It's ours.
Worked out great for everybody, I'm sure. Yeah.
I like the simplicity of England and Spain in the 1500s having like these like huge land grabs and ships and like, hey, why is this land yours? Oh, because our boat got here first and we put a flag there, so mine now.
Correct.
Like that is, I mean, that's not really like what'd you do? Like, oh, I didn't see anybody right when I got to this beach. So obviously there's nobody on it because they didn't come out and say hello. Or if they did, they're like, oh, look at these people. They don't have ships. They need us.
I'm going to do that with
you work for me now.
I'm going to do that with our apartment complex pool here after I'm done with the show. I'm just going to get a makeshift flag, and then I'm just going to plant it right in the middle. And I dare you. What are you going to do?
Yeah, I own this now. Like, why? Well, there was no one here when I came down.
Right. I'm going to be a squatter in the pool.
Yeah. And he was like, well, yeah, but like it's in a lease, whatever. No. I got here.
There's nothing in the fine print. Show me where I can't do this.
Here's the thing. You've got about 2 months from now where nobody's going to go down to that thing.
Oh, God, 2 weeks.
Yeah. And then you could do it then.
Oh,
just plant the flag. It'll be frozen in for months and months and months. And then eventually people will just capitulate to you because they're like, well, I guess it's Pierre territory now. I'll have to negotiate with him to get on.
You are my idea man. That's what I tell everybody. He's the idea. He's the brains behind the operation. 100%.
Yeah. There you go. I mean, I'm pretty sure that England, Spain, and anybody else who colonized anywhere, France, they probably pulled the same thing. We're like, hey, all these people are in their huts for the cold winter. We're just going to claim this. And then when they come out, they're like, hey, the hell?
Yeah.
And then they're going to be like, hey, you weren't out here. Like, yeah, it was freezing cold.
Yeah.
Would you be out here? You had to get off your ship.
Right. That's an excellent point.
Yeah. No, I do. I like making history jokes. I think it's going to be my next realm of improv and stand-up where we do. I've been trying to get my group, 3 guys and a beer. And I know it can be dorky to have an improv group, but I have one. And I've been trying to get us to do more let's do a history themed improv where we just take a period of history and just do improv with it, like colonial America, let's go, Revolutionary War, do it. I don't think there is as many history buffs in my group as me. So
I have to tell you, can I tell you, I watched Band of Brothers for the first time, probably just a couple of years ago. And I know that show that came on almost 20 years ago or something like that.
Yeah. I was in college.
Yeah. So I as I'm watching it and I'm watching them, do all the hand signals and stuff, I was like, there has to be a joke somewhere in here of baseball hands stealing, like in World War II, and there's a joke in here somewhere.
Oh yeah.
What does this mean when is Hitler crossing the border? Like, what is that? Like, there's a joke in there somewhere.
Like, the American look. They, I mean, like you've seen like movies like U-571 or knew about the U-boats. Like we had U-boats. We stole the coding machines. There's several different films and books like about all of it. Gary, I know you've read some.
Oh, yeah.
It's one of the more fascinating parts of World War II. I'm sure there's a guy out there. They had a bunch of Major League Baseball players, like Yogi Berra was there, Ted Williams, all that, like all these Major League Baseball players. Like I think that would be like a funny like spoof of a movie to like pick a baseball player that God, who was the guy? It was Paul Rudd was in it, and it was the catcher was a spy. Golly, and it's a really good book. It's a really good book. It's a really good movie, but it was about, his name was Mo something, and he was a catcher for the Dodgers, I want to say, and he was a spy in World War II, and like a damn good one too. And then he like got out and was like, all right, back to it.
Yeah.
So,
like,
but but yeah, having like somebody like Yogi Berra who's like, oh, well, I can see like he's stealing their signs. Like they're over there like,
yeah.
Like, I got the indicator. All right, here they're going to go.
That's all I could think of when I was watching Band of Brothers. I was like, who's stealing second here? What's happening? I don't like, there's a joke in there somewhere. I knew you probably would know what to do with it.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
I'll give you an EP credit when we do it.
Thank you so much.